So fall camp is one day closer to coming to an end for USC. It officially closes on this Saturday. USC is also back in the news with the transfer portal and Pac 12 games of interest for USC out of conference and in conference. That's what's coming up next on Locked On USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Marc, and thanks for making Locked On USC your first listen every day, whether you're watching on YouTube or wherever you download your podcasts. Don't forget we're free, and we do appreciate you coming along for the ride, enjoying the show, hopefully. If not, let me know. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. Tell your friends. And again, if you got some feedback, drop me a DM, throw me a comment there on YouTube, whatever works for you. You can find me on Twitter right there at Marc Culkin. So I mentioned we're one less day to go with fall camp. The team was back at it on practice Wednesday. They were in full pads. The media was blacked out again. Sorry to say. However, I will be back out there tomorrow morning. I'm recording the show Wednesday evening. I'll be back practicing Thursday morning. I'll be there as well as wearesc.com. So while you're listening to the show, I'm at practice. And after practice on Thursdays, and this will probably be the routine going forward once they start 0 week. One day a week, you get offensive coaches. Second day of the week that the media gets access to players and coaches, you'll get defensive players and special teams. So Thursday, we'll have access to the defensive coaches and players. And we'll be able to, get some Q&A going with them guys, and then I'll have some information for you on Friday's Locked On USC episode. I mentioned that the team was back at practice. We weren't there, but they were in full pads a day after they showed up in shells. So I think it's safe to assume, even though nobody was there to watch it happen, that there was a physical component to practice on Wednesday. Why else do you put on full pads if you're not going to strap it up and hit each other and tackle the ground, kind of do those types of things? Two players that I was able to spy that they weren't suited up, and these are two positions of importance. So this is why we're highlighting them. Number one, Corey Foreman, and Josh Follow, tight end, being the other. No, I was not at practice. The media was not allowed to be there. However, USC football, their social media, they did put out a tweet at the end of their practice showing the team saluting the Spirit of Troy. That's USC's official band name. And so I was able to kind of spot a couple of the guys who weren't suited up. It's my spy film. It's my spy breaking down a film, I guess. Wish we didn't have to do that, but this is what we do to get you information. We go to USC football Twitter feeds where they're saluting the bands, hoping to see which players are suited up and which ones aren't. Thank you, Lincoln Riley. You are definitely in control of this program right now. As far as the Corey Foreman injury is concerned, look, the longer he's away, the further he's going to fall behind. And he still has to get through this acclimation period in fall camp and beyond. USC's first game was in 16 days. And the last time I saw Corey Foreman with a helmet was the first day of fall camp. Today, I believe, was day 11. Just to kind of put that timeline into context for y'all. Look, I'm rooting for the young man. I think everybody is. His skill and talent level are off the charts, and he's being missed in the meantime. So it's imperative that he comes back as quickly as he can. It's injury related. The staff has been very tight-lipped about it. I have learned that it is not a lower leg extremity. So just take it for what it's worth. Corey is anticipated back soon. It's just a matter of when. Hopefully tomorrow when we're at practice. We'll have some positive info for you. On that tweet as well that USC put out, it was kind of, it was nice to see. It's always fun to hear the Spirit of Troy playing. And so to see some of the more, I guess, real and visceral reactions from a lot of the freshmen and the transfers, that was fun to watch on that video. You can really see that they were enjoying into it. It's hard to kind of fake that type of enthusiasm. So when I see Rayleigh Brown skipping and, players that got their arms around each other's shoulders, that's real stuff. That's good stuff to watch. That's the brotherhood, the camaraderie that we often refer to. Not everything is good news around. Well, change is neither good or bad. It's all on how you handle it. So Maximus Gibbs entered the transfer portal on Wednesday, or at least that's when it became public. And I've had two separate sources tell me that the University of Arizona is probably going to be where Big Max lands. And that makes sense. He's getting away from home, but it's still close enough. And he knows a bunch of the guys on that roster. So it's going to make that transition, if that's where he ends up, a lot smoother for him. Look, long story short with Big Max, it was best for him to try and start over somewhere else. People are going to try and suggest that, weight was an issue, but I'm here to tell you, Max was working his ass off to get in better shape, and he was doing what was asked of him. There was just, sometimes it's better just to move on, and I think that's what's happening at this point. Last season, he bounced from the O-line to the D-line, trying to help the team, and then he moved back to the O-line before spring camp started this year. And, if we're being honest, he was going to have a really hard time playing this year on the offensive line with the guys in front of him. And I'm talking about specifically Andrew Voorhees, left guard, Brett Nylon at center, Justin Dietich at right guard. Those are three seniors, three guys who have NFL aspirations, as does Max, but he wasn't going to play in front of these guys. So we wish Max good luck, and hopefully he can become everything everybody hopes he can be. Nobody wishes anything ill will or anything bad for Big Max. Yesterday on our show, we talked about the scrimmage a little bit. And one group that we didn't get to talk about was the running backs. And running back coach Kiel McDonald, he's about as straight shooter as it comes. And that's why players love to play for him. He was super popular when he was the running backs coach at Utah. And his development of the players under him, that can't be understated enough. And I say this as watching the players he's developed play very well against USC. So this is a firsthand testimonial. Plus, the players who have played for him and he's coached will testify as well. But Coach McDonald had, he did have a couple of comments when we spoke to him after Tuesday's practice. He had this to say about Darwin Barlow and his group. Specifically on Darwin Barlow, he was highlighting the progress that he's seen from the redshirt junior. Quote, Darwin's had a really good scrimmage and made quite a few good plays, but in terms of just getting acclimated to the play calls and expectations, I think he's made a considerable jump from spring to now, end quote. Interesting, if you remember, Trojan fans, when we started talking to Darwin during the spring, this is when a lot of the players became very candid and very open about the differences between this coaching staff and the previous coaching staff. Well, Darwin Barlow wasn't the only one who made the comment, but let's just say the running backs weren't that involved in the schemes for on a week-to-week basis. I think one time I heard Darwin say that, if the play broke down, the running back was just kind of supposed to just go get open. That was that's how they were being coached. Go get open. Anyways, moving forward, 2022 is going to be a much better year for Darwin as well as the running backs. I guarantee that. There's a system in place. Lincoln Riley appreciates the run game. Lincoln Riley is calling the plays. Graham Harrell is no longer at USC. And Graham Harrell won't even be calling plays at West Virginia this year. That just tells you where things were. He also went on to say, Coach McDonald, he noted how the carries among his position group have been almost exactly even so far throughout fall camp. For an even, he wants to make sure that the playing field is even in the players' eyes. And so he said that, quote, things have been clear from the beginning. The best players are going to play. So you've got your shot to show us what you can do, and we're going to make sure that we slot the guys who bring it, end quote. So there you go. It's going to be interesting to see how the depth chart and the rotation works itself out this year. Travis Dye, he didn't come down from Oregon with his 1,000-yard rushing season to sit on the bench 1 year before he's ready to go to the NFL. Or, maybe he did. Running back by committee, keep the body fresh. Maybe that was his mindset. I doubt it. Travis is a pretty serious dude. He'll tell you if you suck, if you're not pulling your weight. Again, that was one of the more candid quotes that we got from the running backs so far this year. Austin Jones, he's another upperclassman. He came over from Stanford. I know that when he was recruited, he wanted to be a Trojan. The previous staff kind of slow played him during the recruiting process. And then I mentioned Darwin. And then you got Rayleigh Brown, who is the wild card game breaker in the open field. So there you go. That's the running back feedback that we got from Coach Kiel McDonald. We'll see more of what we can see on Thursday. But again, the emphasis is typically going to be on the defense. All right, we're going to sober up, get serious again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Look, you're hanging out with some friends. You're putting back a few drinks. A few becomes too many. And as the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. Trust me, it's a big deal. What are the odds you're going to get pulled over anyways? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. So also, I want to take a moment here to remind you that the Ultimate College Football previews are coming up on YouTube with the Locked On Network. So I want to, again, thank everyone for making a Locked On USC your first listen every day. The Ultimate College Football Preview is here, a 7-day preview with college experts, local team experts, like myself, and Odyssey College Football insiders. It's everything you need to be ready for the college football season in one spot. Search for your Ultimate College Football Preview on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. So on that note, earlier in my day, I had a crosstalk episode on Locked On with the host from Locked on Oregon, Spencer McLaughlin, who's also Locked on Pac-12. The Locked on Utah show with JT, and I'm not going to butcher your last name. It starts with a W. I apologize. And that was moderated by our host from Locked on Auburn, Zach Blackersby. And we had a few different topics that we talked about regarding the Pac-12. We talked about who had the best quarterback in the conference between the three top schools, at least from a perception point of view. That's why USC, Utah, and Oregon were on the show, and not UCLA or Stanford or Colorado. Just the big boys. My order for the quarterbacks, I put it in this order. It was Cam Rising, yes, eyebrows raised, Caleb Williams, and then Bo Nix. And the only reason I gave Cam the nod over Caleb, it's strictly for the experience factor, nothing more. And he is the incumbent. He led the team to the Rose Bowl. I think he's earned the right to say he's the number one quarterback in the conference right now. Will he be by the end of the year? No. Everyone agreed that Caleb has the higher ceiling and will be the better of the two quarterbacks. And Bo Nix is just Bo Nix. He is the anticipated starter for Oregon. So we had a little fun at Spencer's expense, especially since Bo Nix was a transfer from Auburn. Zach is very well versed with the Auburn program and how Bo Nix performs when the Bullets are flying on the field. So we'll see how he performs at Oregon. Should be interesting. We also talked about circled games on the calendar, and I had 5 on USC's calendar that I spoke about. Stanford, we're going to find out if USC is physical this year, and will they punch back after getting punched in the mouth? That's what Stanford does. They punch you in the mouth, and they'll see how long you will go toe-to-toe with them. Last year, after getting decked, USC didn't get up, and that was at home. So that's the first game that I have circled. Yes, they open the season against Rice. That we'll be looking for other things, but Rice should not be a challenge for USC. Period. End of story. Second game is the third game of the season, and that's Fresno. This is my trap game. USC should be 2-0. However, the Bulldogs are what I like to call the proverbial chip on the shoulder team. Pretty much everyone on that roster wanted to be a Trojan or play, for a Power 5 program in the Pac-12. So they always have that extra oomph when they're playing a school like USC or a school in the Pac-12. It's one of those, I told you so. You should have recruited me, and I could have done this. Look, last year Fresno State knocked off UCLA. They returned their quarterback, Jake Haener. This is the same Fresno team that almost and probably should have won up in Eugene last year. They literally turned the ball over way too many times. Otherwise, they leave Eugene with a win as well. So this is a scary team. Jeff Tedford he's going to have this team coached up. Again, Fresno is going to bring a busload of fans down the Grapevine, down the 5. So big crowd, and if USC hasn't recovered from their game against Stanford, this one could be scary circled. Third game definitely is going to be Utah. Everyone is hoping that both teams are going to be undefeated heading into this game. But how much of a bump will the Utes get for winning down in the swamp that's their first game of the year? They open up at Florida against an unranked Gator team. So if they win, how much of a bump are they going to get? And conversely, if they lose, how far are they going to tumble? Again, Florida is unranked. Utah is opening the season as the highest ranked Pac-12 team, number 7 in the AP poll. Oregon was number 11, and your USC Trojans number 14. Everyone anticipates Oregon dropping precipitously after they get their teeth kicked in against Georgia to open the season. Sorry, Dan Lanning, welcome to the Pac-12. Your old team has a message for you. And then, obviously the final two games on USC's schedule that I have circled are Notre Dame at home in the Coliseum and UCLA at the Rose Bowl. So there you go. Make sure to check out those shows. You can find them on YouTube, on the Locked On Network. I think you're going to enjoy them. I had a lot of fun doing them. So check them out. All right. In this segment, before we get out of here, the Trojans 2021 recruiting class, 2 years later, when USC, the 2021 class, they finished inside the top 10 nationally. So let's take a peek back at it 2 years later. Who's gone? How about 1/3 of the 22 high school enrollees, plus 2 more transfers? So here are the high school enrollees who are no longer on the roster 2 years later. Jackson Dart and Michael Trigg, both are with our good friend Lane Kiffin down there at Ole Miss. Jay Toya, defensive tackle, who skipped town and went to the other side of the tracks for UCLA. Brandon Campbell, running back out of Houston, is back home playing for Houston. He joined Joseph Manjack, who had a pretty good run in his freshman year at USC, but he just didn't have that comfort level. And again, new staff came in. Joseph is back home in Houston. Hopefully, he's enjoying the smell of the beach. That's an inside joke. Ty Buchanan, offensive lineman, he is at Texas Tech. And we mentioned Maximus Gibbs short time ago. We think he's going to land at Arizona. The 2 transfers who came in that class were Jake Smith, wide receiver from Texas, medical retirement, and Ishmael Sopsher, defensive lineman from Alabama, who I know he's transferred somewhere. Look, he's no longer part of the program. I wish everyone well wherever they go, but I wanted to bring these guys up because all of these guys, one way or another, either played last year or were anticipated to have an impact on the program, and they're no longer around. But who is still here from the 2021 class of 22 players and 7 transfers? So these are just the high school players from that class who are still part of the program. And a lot of these names are starting to make a name for themselves this year. Others we're still waiting to hear from. Corey Foreman, we talked about him earlier on the show. Sia Wright, he is getting some run with the first team defensive backs. Right now, through fall camp, typically he is matched up with Mekhi Blackman. Mekhi is on one side of the field at cornerback, Sia Wright the other side. Rajon Davis, he's finding his role with the with the linebackers. Miller Moss, he's battling and competing with Caleb Williams for quarterback. Julian Simon, he is now moved over to the rush end position under Roy Manning. No longer is he playing in the middle linebacker role. I think this is a good spot for him. Kyron Hudson, wide receiver. You don't hear his name, but I'll tell you what, all he does is practice hard, and he's actually having a really good camp. A lot of whispers about his name. Maybe we'll start see what we can spy with him at practice tomorrow. Again, it's really hard to watch the offense with Lincoln's practices. He likes to keep the cameras turned away. So that's why when you're watching video or any of the photos that we take, the ones of the defense are just much more clear, a lot more clarity. Prophet Brown had a huge interception according to Lincoln Riley at the scrimmage over the weekend. Kalen Bullock, enough said, starting free safety, freshman All-American, yet somehow wasn't able to get on any of the preseason Pac-12 teams. Go figure. Anthony Beavers, he is making some run in the rotation at strong safety. You got Zamarian Gordon, huge, big guy. Again, he's got some safety play, some more experienced guys in front of him. You've got Jalen Smith, nickelback from Alemany, who, again, one of the younger guys on the roster. But last year, he was seeing the field quite a bit. Michael Jackson III, wide receiver out of Las Vegas. He changed numbers this year. He's wearing Juju Smith-Schuster's old number, 9. Mason Murphy. You've been hearing his name a lot. He is part of the 2-deep rotation on the offensive line. And right now he is backing up at right tackle. And then defensive tackle Colin Mobley from the Maryland DMV area. So that's who's left from that class. And you some of these names you hear about, we talk about during our practice reports, others not so much. But again, these are redshirt freshmen or true sophomores. They have plenty of time. And again, you want to get some more information that I can't cover for you here on Locked On USC, always head on over to wearesc.com. We've got a bunch of VIP and subscriber information, news and notes that I think you'll really enjoy. And we do have a sign-up special right now, $10 for the year. Go check it out. That's 84 cents a month. But before you're over at wearesc.com, I know you're making Locked On USC your first listen. And then when you're done here, as I talked about, head on over, check out the Locked On Pac-12 with your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and Locked On Big Ten with your host, Nate Dickinson, because that will be USC's new home in a couple of years. The Big Ten, here we come. I'll be back again with another episode tomorrow. Locked On USC is with you 5 days a week. We appreciate you being here. So until then, everyone, fight on.